start with a slightly conspiratorial, engaging tone. You know, when we think of World War II, we often picture Churchill, Roosevelt, and a very specific mustachioed villain. But there's another figure just as crucial, just as brutal, whose story is often shrouded in a mix of propaganda and terrifying truth. Let's talk about the man they called Koba, the man of steel, Joseph Stalin. Shift to a more narrative storytelling tone. When Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa in June 1941, invading the Soviet Union with the largest land force in history, it should not have been a surprise. British and American intelligence had warned Stalin for months. His own spies were screaming it from the rooftops. But Stalin did nothing. He refused to believe it. He'd signed a non-aggression pact with Hitler, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, just 2 years earlier. They'd carved up Poland together. He thought Hitler was, in a twisted way, his partner. The shock was so profound that when the invasion began, Stalin reportedly had a complete breakdown. He disappeared for nearly 2 weeks, retreating to his dacha outside Moscow, leaving his country leaderless at its most desperate hour. He was convinced his generals were coming to arrest him, to execute him for his catastrophic failure. But they didn't. They came begging him to lead. And when Stalin re-emerged, he wasn't the strategist. He was the brute, build intensity. He addressed the nation not as a comrade, but as a brother and sister. It was a masterclass in manipulation. He invoked the spirit of Mother Russia, not the ideals of communism. His first major command, Order 227, the famous not one step back order, it decreed that any soldier who retreated would be shot on sight by special blocking units, positioned behind the front lines. Think about that. Soviet soldiers were literally caught between the German army and their own. It was victory or death. There was no other option. And the cost was astronomical. While the Western allies were fighting and dying, the scale of the Eastern Front is almost impossible to comprehend. For every single American soldier killed in World War II, the Soviet Union lost 85. We're talking about a death toll that could be as high as 27 million people, military and civilian. Stalin threw bodies at the problem. He saw his people as an infinite resource, a human wave to drown the Nazi war machine. He relocated entire factories brick by brick to the Ural Mountains, worked by people on starvation rations, all to churn out T-34 tanks. Conclude with a thought-provoking, slightly somber tone. And it worked. The Red Army, fueled by sheer numbers, brutal discipline, and a desperate love for their homeland, ground the Wehrmacht to a halt at Stalingrad and began the long, bloody push to Berlin. By 1945, Stalin wasn't just a paranoid dictator. He was a victorious war leader, sitting across from Roosevelt and Churchill, redrawing the map of Europe. He had saved the world from Hitler, but in the process he had shackled half a continent under his own iron fist. He was both the savior and the monster of the story, a paradox that bled across Eastern Europe for the next 50 years. And that's the terrifying, complicated truth of Stalin's war.